Welcome to Conspiracy Crypto Pirates, episode 13.
Yabba-dabba-do.
Our lucky number, 13. Maybe this one will get 1,000 views.
Wasn't that your number?
It was my number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and Taylor Swift have a lot in common.
Oh my goodness.
Speaking of Taylor Swift, did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did.
Yeah. Did you like the ads?
I mean, I'm more there for the football anyways.
Right. Yeah.
I kind of get irritated by the people that just want to watch the ads. I mean, I don't know how many people are coming there just to see the ads these days because they're so bad.
I feel like they're getting worse and worse, yeah.
I think this year was better than the other years.
As far as ads go?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they had a low bar to start with.
They did have a low bar. Did you see the Marine ad?
The Marine? I don't think so.
So there was an ad. It was for like the Marines, like recruiting.
Oh, the Army Marines.
Yeah.
Not like a Marina, like.
yeah. Not a amphibious Marine.
Yeah, go watch the docs.
Yeah. No, but what I thought was really interesting is, have you heard the conspiracy about birds being spies or drones, government?
I have, but that's about as far as I go.
So if it flies, it spies, is what they say. But what I thought was really fascinating is how actually in the ad, they like showed this bird flying and then it like morphed into a drone, like a normal drone. And I was like, that is fuel to the fire right there. Oh, man.
Like walking through the Denver airport and try and tell the people that think that the alien's in there that there's not, with all the alien stuff around it.
Oh, man, there's so much about the Denver airport that we should go into sometime. But
that might be a 5-hour long. We might have to break it into sections.
Right. What's funny is there's like this whole movement around the whole bird thing. Like people believe that they're actual drones and spies and stuff. And there is like government programs that have taken dead birds basically and like put motors and whatnot in them, and they have used them as spies, but the videos that you see of it, they look funky. I mean, maybe if it's like afar off, kind of flying.
You see this bird like
constantly farting. But like, I mean, it's a good idea if you're like from a distant surveillance type situation.
Most
but
definitely.
I just think it's funny, their slogan, if it flies, it spies. Oh, man. But with the Super Bowl, did you hear about the streaker?
No.
So I watched the game. They didn't show it, but I heard about it later. There was a guy that lives in Las Vegas.
Okay.
That he put, because you can bet on anything, right, in Vegas. He put a $50,000 bet that there would be a streaker in the game.
Wow.
So then he streaks across the field. They showed he wasn't like undecent. He was just running across the field or whatever. So beforehand he puts a $50,000.
Well, you gotta put if you're going to be the one doing it, you might as well put it in the conditions.
He puts a $50,000 bet in. He goes to the game. He streaks across. So he wins the bet. So for $50,000, he gets a $1,000 fine, but he comes out with a $374,000.
So he bet up to $50,000 if he lost?
He put $50,000 in the pot. So like, the odds.
Yeah.
It would go up or whatever. So obviously the odds were that there wouldn't be a streaker.
I wonder how much his seat costs, though.
Well, I thought about that too. Because, I mean, the seats there are insane.
Yeah.
And then you think you would have to get a seat that's close enough to the field to be able to just hop a barrier or whatever. Because especially, I feel like a game like that, they're not going to be like open, like, oh yeah, fans, come on down and take a look or whatever. Like they might be more courteous to normally. But I'm like, brilliant. This guy's IQ is off the charts. But yeah, any news on the crypto front?
On the crypto front, I've been more looking at the kind of how the markets work and what's kind of driving them.
Sure.
And it really comes down to interest rates. Like I was listening to Mark Moss again, and he was saying that one of the highest performing stock traders of all time is like most people look at the valuation of the company themselves and see how much money they're bringing in and all that, and what it's going to be worth and valued at. I'm like, okay, that's a decent way of looking at it. That's how most people is
like the value investor.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, I don't do that. Like, it's important to have a good company, but he's like, I look at how the feds are doing the interest rates. And when they start lowering the interest rates, that means more loans are readily available. And so there's going to be more money flowing into the markets,
which is
going to increase. And then if they take that away, then there's going to be bad years.
That makes sense. Did he say on how that would affect, like, his choice in specific stocks that he would pick in that regard? Because, like, obviously what you're talking about, the feds and the interest rates would affect the overall market going up or down. Does that help him?
You have your principle of, like, hey, this guy has, like, he's solid on his financials. So if you have the interest rates rise, like, say, Apple, they've already taken out the low interest rates and they're just holding on to that money waiting for something to happen.
For sure.
And then they bounce when there's a good deal on the market to spend it.
Right.
And then, but if you're somebody that's spending that money carelessly, and not, oh, look, I'm doing so well.
Right.
And then the rug gets pulled out and you're like, oh, shoot, I'm not doing anything anymore. So you can short those people and long the other people.
That's a very smart way to look at it. That's really cool.
But I know. Also, they're talking about with printing of money, like you're printing money, like supposedly our goal is 2 to 3% printing of money. Right now we're off the charts. We're not even hitting that. And we're definitely going to hit that and be like, okay, we might not hit it this year, but next year, like we'll average it out over the next 5 years. And now they're just like,
right.
You know, but a lot of that is just to try and keep investors in check and make sure that they're not panicking one way or another.
Right. No, that makes sense. I know specifically just in the markets, the crypto markets, they've been steadily growing. So, like, I think Bitcoin right now is at about 50,000.
Okay.
Which, I mean, we're only 16,000 from its all-time high.
Okay.
Which is crazy. And it seems like there hasn't really been a ton of volume in the market, or there's not a ton of people talking about it, really.
Well, we're not really talking about it right now, but I think there's a lot of investors, like BlackRock, ARK Invest, and all the ETFs that are coming into the market. I think they're just slowly dollar
cost averaging to get in. That makes sense.
And so, because, I mean, if you were to put, I don't think there's that much out there to buy, so I think they're just slowly buying it up. And then you're going to have your ups and downs, and they're going to try and push the market one way or another. But it's going to be interesting to see how the common people react.
Right.
Like your long-term retirement investors.
Yeah.
If they're going to buy in, and then, like, are they going to panic? Like, in about a year from now, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to buy into it.
Yeah.
And there's going to be all this FUD going to be like, it's going to go to the moon. Like, this is the last chance you got. Like, the dollar's going to go down and all that. And
for sure.
The dollar is relatively strong right now. But when you take a look at all the other countries, the dollar's really strong.
Which is crazy. Because it seems like it's so weak. Just with all our printing that we've done and everything.
Yes. But once people realize, and I think more and more people are realizing that we're printing money, like, you're getting taxed to pay for the government. But that's really not funding the government. The printing's funding the government. And then you're adding the taxation on top of that. And so you're getting taxed in multiple different ways. And over, usually, like, you have a 2% increase, and then you have a 2 or 3% increase in inflation, and usually your job gets a little bump of 2 or 3%, and it kind of goes up like that. And so your average cost of living doesn't go up or down, but we just have had a big, huge swing, and your products cost about the same, but the products are now catching up to the inflation cost, but our wages are still staying at that 2 or 3% increase every single year.
Right.
And so when your boss comes to you and be like, "Oh, we got you a 2% raise. Like, we worked hard to get that," or your union or whatever you're going for. It's like, yeah, that's garbage.
Yeah.
Like, I know the union was like that. To be a part of my job, I had to be a part of it, which sucks. I don't like unions.
Right.
But it's like I don't even have a choice.
Yeah.
It's like, can I negotiate my own price? Like, if I work hard, like, can I make more money? Or like I could be lazy? Yeah. They'd rather just have lazy employees.
Yeah. Right.
But they were like, "Yeah, we got you like a 3% increase raise." I'm like, so inflation was like 15%. So
At
you're saying I got a what raise? It's not a raise.
Right. It's
And they write out this email like they're all proud and they worked so hard to get this. It's like it's a game.
It really is a game.
And when the economy has something bad go on, then they still play the game expecting you to not know.
Right.
And then a year or two later, you're just like, I'm having a hard time paying my rent.
Right.
And food on the table. And I used to be able to take a vacation. Now I'm doing a staycation.
Yeah.
And I'm still running my car 2 or 3 years longer than I was wanting to and all that. Like, I'm doing that so I can put more money into cryptos.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, our ship back here, I mean, it's ready to be upgraded, but we might as well just put all the treasure into cryptos. So that's probably the best bet.
Well, when cryptos go up, what we're doing with our ship is we're doing the Trump model, and we're just lining that puppy up with all gold inside.
Well, we're turning that into a yacht. Maybe a couple bored apes on the wall.
It's been a while since the bored apes came up.
They're coming back. No, I don't know if they're coming back. There has been a little bit of ETF news in the last, I think, week or so. There was a big purchase. Somebody made a big purchase on one of the original ETF projects.
Okay.
And he like turned around and sold it for like 10x what he bought it for. So it's like they're still hanging around.
Yeah.
I don't know if they'll ever come back full force.
So ETS, it plays an important role in the future, I think, of saying, like, I think your music label records are going to be ETS, and then you're going to buy maybe a subset, but you're going to have the original ETF.
Right.
That is then going to be worth more, like, say, the Taylor Swift thing. It's like her song, label record song, like they own the rights to it.
Right.
But I think they're going to put those rights into ETFs.
Yeah.
Possibly. And so that's going to be an easy way of verifying who has it and who doesn't.
And I think it's going to be a way for them to monetize a song. For instance, say like Taylor Swift does a song, and then they're almost going to be able to turn that song into the stock market, where they'll be like, this song has 500 shares, 500 ETF whatevers. And you could buy into that. I have one share of this song.
Okay.
And then you can, use that as an investment, or I own part of the song. And when that song makes money, like
then
she goes on tour,
residuals.
You can get residuals from it, or it's on Spotify, things like that. And I think that is an interesting way of ETF technology, for lack of a better word, is being utilized for something useful. And also for the artist or whoever that creates this ETF. It's also very lucrative because now, like I said, it's almost like a stock market thing from that point.
And I think, digital art is going to be common.
Yeah.
And so how do you make a common item that you can just copy and paste into something that isn't common? And an ETF is that. And I think it's like your Van Goghs. There's a lot of Van Goghs out there, but either that's someone painting it or just someone taking a picture of it, a high quality picture, then print it on a high quality printer, and then you put it on your wall or your computer screen or whatever.
Right.
And so I think that's one way of keeping the originality to the artist. Like he can say, hey, I own this ETF, or hey, there's only going to be like 10 ETFs out there, kind of like a Ferrari.
Yeah.
Like there's only so many Ferraris out there.
So many real ones, yeah. Yeah, and I think the last ETF boom was almost like the proof of concept. Like they were attaching ETF technology to anything and everything. You know, like I can spit out this computer generated image and put an ETF technology and oh look, and like the technology worked as far as transferring it and all that. And it was at the beginning of the pandemic or whatever. So, and during that time, there was a lot of people that were bored sitting down with extra cash on hand. And then they got into the hype of, you know, it blowing up and everything. So I think that was almost like the proof of concept, almost right time, right place as far as people flush with cash and bored.
Well, I think it really comes down to like it's proof of concept, but also it's like you're saying, there's anybody and everybody doing it, just like the car market. When cars first came around, like we've had thousands of car companies go bust. And we've had the 5 main. So I think that's going to stay true in like cryptos. You're going to have your 5 like main cryptos that everyone's going to use and know 50 years from now. Same thing with like your ETFs, but I think it's like the use case is like, oh, it's a different use case altogether. Maybe we should start our own board pirate
Yacht Club. There you go. People, go buy our board Yacht Club.
Well, we need to come up with it first.
Yes. So don't steal our idea, please. That's hilarious. I found something very interesting this week going off of the ETFs and or not ETFs, sorry, cryptos and all that.
And ETFs and
did you know that Hawaii during World War II had its own currency?
No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of a comment to come back with that, and all I could think of was no.
No, so in World War II, the U.S. government was somewhat afraid that Hawaii was going to be taken over by Japan.
Oh, okay.
So, and they didn't want to have U.S. dollars over there to get corrupted, if you will, because if it gets taken over, then they could, you know, take that out of the market and cause a huge problem with the currency. So they actually printed special Hawaiian dollar bills.
That might be a cool collector's item.
So that's what it is now, is a collector's item. Like you can collect them. And I'm not sure how much they are. I bet they go for quite a bit because there's probably not that many around.
Yeah.
But they're, you know, they
probably tried to destroy it after World War II, too.
Probably, but a few hanging around.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're labeled like Hawaii on both sides and everything. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting, because then if it did get taken over by Japan, they would just be like, okay, any bills that have Hawaiian on it are not legal tender, basically.
Yeah.
So I thought that was, I didn't know about it, but I thought it was a very interesting way of them doing that. See, the government can be smart when they want to be.
Well, when they're afraid of losing their money.
True. Very, very true.
They play dumb, and then they tax you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Just like the, what is it, 300,000 new or is it 3,000 new IRS?
No, 300,000.
300,000 new IRS agents hired, and they let them carry guns. Like, have you seen that?
The training video?
The training, where they're
it was
single
quite
file, like walking in line, pointing the gun at the next person's head in front of them. It's like, everything you're supposed to do, not supposed to do with a gun, they did. Like, literally, all right, this is how you arrest somebody. So everyone get into a circle and point the gun at the guy. And if he ducks, pull the trigger so you all kill each other.
I was going to say, if the IRS goes to your house to throw a firecracker out, and they'll kill themselves.
Right? And then they have a guy in a wheelchair following behind, like,
What? I didn't see that part.
I mean, I didn't see him pointing the gun, but like he had the gun and he was like doing the wheelchair, just like, oh my goodness, this is
Isn't
so
there an
bad.
office job for him to do though? Well, should
I mean,
he all doing office
equal
jobs?
opportunity. You really got to think about this. If there's a stair, and let's just say that grandma that didn't pay her taxes flees down the stairs. I'm sorry, I can't. Help! Like, there's stairs. Like,
He'll take the elevator.
yeah, and she's probably going to get fined for not having it ADA compliant.
So
one way of taking grandma's house.
Oh man!
Don't get me started.
So did you know that they had GPS in the early 1900s?
No.
So GPS for cars. Well, and people, I guess. So they didn't have a satellite, obviously.
Okay, yeah.
You figured that much.
I was like, maybe these UFOs have been around a little longer than we thought.
But it's really funny because it doesn't match up. I mean, it matches up, but it's just funny. So basically, it was this little unit that would go on your dashboard of your car in the 1900s. So like a little bit after the Model T. So I don't know what that'd be. Model B, Y, X.
So, I think they ran out of models
right.
after Z.
And you would put these little maps inside of it, almost like one of those old-time calculators that like prints on a Rolodex thing.
Okay.
So it had this piece of paper and had a map on it.
Okay.
And it had like this little, like, a Richter scale or
like
where it has and the little like needle on it, and then it somehow connected to like the speedometer, and then it would basically like trace out where you're going and like everything. But if you got off course,
so like it'd be on the compass, and then it would be on. So like you're going 60 miles an hour, so I'd do this. And
it would like follow the map or whatever. But if you got like, I mean, the maps are small, so if you got off course, there wouldn't be a recalculating. You would literally have to like take the map out and put a new map in.
Okay.
To redo it.
That's cool.
And then they actually had a wrist one. It was like a watch. The little thing.
Like pace, like you took 3,000 steps, like.
Yeah, it was like a paper thing. And I was like, wow, the first Apple Watch right there.
Right?
It was very ingenuitive, but
yeah.
I thought it was hilarious. It looked funnier than anything, but obviously it didn't go over too well. I can't imagine trying to like put it in
I mean,
map.
that's like technology, high-end technology that you're really thinking about, that you're just like, wow, this is like maybe not that useful, but how useful was
a computer back in the day. The first computers, I mean, it could do simple calculations.
I mean, you're doing a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
Like, I can write on a piece of paper. Like, yeah, it's nice that you can delete it. Right. Well, was it worth $1,000 when a car cost $3,000? You know?
Right.
It's like, is it worth to do Word for $10,000 in today's value?
No.
Like, probably not.
No. That's crazy. I can't,
But it was definitely worth that money to do Oregon Trail.
Wow, we're bad.
Or old.
Yeah, that too. So this was an interesting not phenomenon, but interesting story. So do you know Universal, Universal Studios, their logo? Yeah. Can you, it's like a world, a globe with like Universal kind of over it. That logo came out in the 1927.
1927. Okay.
And we didn't go. And it's like a map. It's a globe with like all the continents and everything, like perfect.
Yeah.
And we didn't go to space until 1960.
Okay.
So how did the Universal know exactly?
Well, didn't we sail around?
Yes, but did we have
like sailing around
maps?
the world in 100 days or whatever? Wasn't that a movie? Like
180 days. Yeah, with Jackie Chan or whatever.
Yeah, like I mean,
very accurate story right there.
Like we've known about kind of the world and how it's connected. For a long time now.
Yeah.
So.
And I guess they did have. I mean, they had globes, right? Like the old timey.
Like when I went into Dresden, there was a castle there.
Yeah.
And it had like state of the art globes that they would like map things out. Like they literally took what is it called? Surveying equipment.
Yeah.
And like to measure sextants for the stars and all that, and they measured everything out.
Yeah.
On where they were.
Right.
And they mapped out where each island was and all that. Like it was like, and these were really cool looking globes.
Okay. Like very detailed?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like some of them were like this big.
Oh, wow.
And it was just like really cool. Like if you found an island, you're like putting a dot. And then they had reverse globes, which I don't really know how you use, but it was of the stars.
Oh, okay.
And so you can kind of go through and like see the different stars and how they construct it. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool.
That would just break my mind. Like trying to like figure out like how they would actually construct that like accurately. Yeah. Like, oh, well, let's make a globe, but reverse it to show the sky instead of like, wait,
I don't know how that.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Even though I'm dyslexic, it still doesn't work.
And then they had like a clock.
Yeah.
That had like the different planets. And they would tell you where the different planets would be. So they had like the clock, and then underneath the clock they would have like where each planet was.
Right.
And then they had like the moon, and it was like wow. And that was like I think 14 or 1600s.
That's crazy.
I mean, I didn't really pick up exactly when each thing was created, but I was like, man, this is like the knowledge that they had.
Right. Well, even just like all the seafaring people would have to have that kind of knowledge to be able to travel across the seas with like virtual no land markers except for the sky to be able to tell which direction you're going. Did you ever hear the story about like Christopher Columbus and like he got...
Didn't he fall off the edge of the earth?
Yes, he did. He got like stranded or something. He was on an island.
Okay.
And there was like a bunch of natives there, and the natives they were friendly, but they were kind of like captured his crew on this island. And he was trying to figure out like a way to like get out of there and leave.
Escape, yeah.
And
without the friendliness becoming not friendly.
Yes. And then he found like in his diary and all his like books and stuff as far as navigation goes that there was going to be a lunar eclipse in like 2 days. Yeah, perfect timing.
Right.
And he's like, well, so he went to the natives and he's like, if you don't let us leave, I'm going to take away the moon. And they didn't believe him, and then 2 days later, the moon disappears, and they're like, give us the moon back, and they let him go.
That's awesome.
Right? Oh, man. But I was like, how did that line up perfectly for you?
Like every like decade or century or...
I feel like there's always like partial eclipses. There's lunar eclipses, and then there's
always something that's always like once in 500 years or 2,000 years or whatever. And you're just like, okay, that's really cool. And then you're like, a month later, someone's like, oh, this thing is like, it's like, okay.
It's the brightest the moon has ever been in 2,000 years. And then you're like, okay, it's like, looks normal.
I can still look at it.
Yeah.
I did a moon stare when it was the brightest in 2,000 years. I still haven't stopped looking at it.
Speaking of the moon.
Okay.
Did you know that the moon is rusting?
I did hear something about that. Yeah. That was really weird.
Yeah. So this kid basically took like a really, really high resolution image of the moon. Like basically he took like 2,000 pictures of it and then had like AI like merge it all together to make like a really crystal clear image. And then he found out that it looked like it was rusting. And then he basically, that was like NASA heard about it and everything. And then they like basically concluded, it's not like they already knew about it. And they were just like, yeah, it's rusting. Basically, the minerals, this is what I think is interesting. The minerals oxidize for rusting with oxygen and water.
Okay.
And I'm thinking, isn't there supposedly no oxygen on the moon?
Or water.
Or water? I'm like, then why would it be rusting? but what I thought was really interesting, let me find my note specifically on it just so I get it right on. It was, of course I can't find it.
All right, we're going to cut this section out on the short, just to let you know.
Okay. So, hematite. Wait. Hematite.
Okay.
So hematite means blood in Greek.
Okay.
And the mineral of it the moon rusting is called like hematite. And what's funny is biblically, it says like in the end days, the moon will turn red and everything. Yeah. And in the Greek of the original writings in the Bible is Greek or translated in Greek, it's hematite is the wording, is like, which means like blood.
That's really cool.
It's really weird. It's like, it's turning.
Right? Also some things that are kind of weird and creepy is, you know, the River Euphrates? That supposedly is going to dry up in the end times.
Yeah.
And it's drying up right now. Like, doesn't mean that it's like all the way dried up.
Right.
It might come back with more water or whatever, but it's slowly drying off right now. And the moon's turning
red.
Hematite. But it's like all these things coming together, and you're like, huh.
Right. Everything's
like, how would you know something like that was going to happen? Like, I mean, it's not like they went to the moon back when that was prophesied.
Or did they?
You know, I mean, they might have, but
just teasing. Yeah. Yeah.
The chances of you throwing a spear and hitting the moon was slim.
Well, and I think even like what I find interesting is even the literalness of it. Like the Greek word hematite means blood, you know, like all this stuff, and then they're like, oh, it's hematite is.
Yeah, but do you know one thing that we really should do? And this is something that we should learn from space exploration, is that we have no clue of the consequences that we of ourselves are going to taint the other planets with. And so, like, you know, Neil Armstrong went to the moon and he's first man to put a step on.
Yes.
And we brought the disease of rust and hematite onto the moon.
You're so right.
So, and just imagine what we're going to do to all these other planets that we're going and visiting.
Could you imagine bringing a sucker fish?
There is water. I just don't know how it's going to get the water.
But I mean, if you populate the moon or other planets with sucker fish,
right, they're just going to take over.
Yeah.
And then the moon's going to have to consider them endangered species. After they've taken over, who's going to regulate
that? Oh man! But I actually have another moon story, which was kind of interesting. So have you heard much about the dark side of the moon?
It's dark. That's about it. And aliens. And doesn't China have like a base supposedly on the backside?
There's a lot of different rumors and conspiracies around the backside of the moon. So this in particular, the man identified as Natali.
Oh shoot, he's identifying?
Yes, he's identifying. So he was
All right, we're going to be respectful and consider his pronoun Natali.
Yes, Natali. He was a high-ranking official or engineer for 30 years or so in the Air Force.
Okay.
And he was brought into NASA. They had a probe or something on the moon, and they were having issues supposedly with it. And he comes into the control center. He knows nothing about the whole project, and he comes in, and there's just scientists everywhere, just like running around talking. And he was saying what was interesting was like it wasn't. There were like scientists from all around the world that were in there. China, Russia, like everywhere.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, that's weird. Like it's NASA. You'd think it's just a probe." And then he was getting briefed about like what's going on. One of the scientists like came to him. He didn't seem like his normal self, just like, "Oh yeah, this is what's going on." He kind of seemed sheepish a little bit, and he was showing him images of what they found with their rover, which was on the backside of the moon. And there was like old structures. Basically, it looked like alien things, like buildings.
Like a pyramid?
There was something that was like resemblance of a kind of like a mushroom-shaped building.
Huh. I guess if you have low gravity, then you can do more unique things.
Yeah, right. But he was saying like they weren't just like rock formations. You could tell they were actual like structures and buildings and bases. And he was like, "Wow, this is like super interesting and fascinating." And he got like good images of it that he was looking at. And he's like, "I can't wait for like everybody to find out about this." And then he did his part on the project or whatever. He went home. And he's like, "I don't know why I thought this, but I thought, like, I just kept watching the news and I'm expecting them to show everybody." And he's like, "And it's been 30 years and it hasn't come out." And so he's like, so his thing was like, "Oh, I'm telling you guys now because I've waited 30 years. Nothing has happened. And this is what I know."
Yeah.
But I'm like, how crazy would that be if there was actually... I mean, it's a great hiding spot on the backside of the moon because it always is rotating.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
It's kind of like listening to some of the conspiracy theory people that believe more in aliens.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, there's some people that come out that are like, "Oh, yeah, I was at the military base and they're doing this and that." And, like, their story always changes. And you're just like, okay, like, that guy. But there's, like, some people that, like, their story's consistent and they're staying the same. And, like, there's this one guy that was, like, talking. He's like, "Yeah, you knew that everything you saw wasn't true." Like, so they would show certain people, certain things. And so they knew if a leak happened.
Okay.
That, okay, this pool of people had this information. Like, we walked them by this channel that had this alien-looking creature.
Yeah.
And so
we have
now,
a leaker.
Yeah, we have a leaker in this pool, and then they also have this information, and so now it brings it down to 10 people, and then, and so their story, they kind of create different stories, and it's like, so I don't know, like, he was saying, like, I don't know what was true and what wasn't, but I know this was true because this is what I was dealing with nonstop, and I actually had hands-on physical with it, or something of that nature,
But as far as all the other surrounding evidence,
so
I have no idea.
In that aspect, I wonder, like, if he was directly working on that, or if he was kind of just like walking by and like, "Oh yeah, look at this," and then like take them on, and like all those scientists were pretty much spies pretending to be a scientist or whatever,
Right. Yeah, from my understanding, they brought him in because they were having like rover issues or whatever, and just trying to get help on how to get it. But yeah, it seems like so much work for them to put on a show or an act for one guy.
On top secret information that you're considering, like Winston Churchill said that the truth is so important that it's guarded by a bodyguard of lies.
Yeah, that's a good statement.
And so it's like, if you're doing something and say, like, you're trying to get an edge military-wise speaking, you don't want to tell everybody
Right.
this information or that information, and so you're going to keep information to yourself.
Right.
Like, yeah, we might share in the International Space Station with this country and that country, and all the countries are like, okay, like we paid to this, but if something really finds, like, you think Neil Armstrong is going to be like, whoop, oh, look what I found.
Right.
So
yeah. No, it's a good statement. Good. But what's funny is, have you seen some of that old footage of like the spacewalks and stuff like that? Like,
I mean, I haven't really paid attention, but yeah, you see the famous.
it looks so fake. Like, you watch it now and you're like, oh, they totally have a wire around their waist and they're being pulled. Like, it, whether it is or not, I don't know, but like some of that footage is like, wow, that was really bad CGI. Oh, like, I'll have to show you a video, because this one in particular that I'm thinking of.
Well, I've seen a lot of like news people or whatever are up on space, and like they drop something like
Right.
you know, they're
right. Well, you know the Challenger, the shuttle that blew up?
Okay, not in particular.
So this happened, I want to say, in the 2000s. So like early 2000s.
Okay.
So anyway.
Is that the one that had like the woman teacher on it? And okay.
So you know Big Bird from Sesame Street? I
want to say no.
He was actually gonna go on the Challenger.
Okay.
Whether it was gonna be an astronaut that they brought a suit on or not, and they were gonna like do some television Big Bird in space or whatever, and they were gonna make a big deal about it, like Big Bird's going to space.
Yeah.
And that was the one that blew up. And like last minute, I guess they decided not to put Big Bird into space. But what's funny is, like, if that would have happened, what would PBS have done? Would they create a new Big Bird? Or like,
they probably just wouldn't air it.
When it blows up, have a bunch of feathers. That's terrible.
Oh my.
But speaking of the Challenger, so there was, this is weird. I can't remember, a couple of the astronauts that were on it.
Mm-hmm.
There has been since then people found, like, just their picture online or whatever.
Yeah.
And they've done some like age changing on those pictures to see, like, okay, they would be now 54 or whatever.
Yeah.
And there's people, like a couple people, a guy and a girl, or a lady for sure, with like the same first name. I think they changed the last name.
But something similar.
Yeah. They look exactly the same.
Same date of birth.
And one of the guys has like a company.
Okay.
And like his company's logo is literally like looks like a little airplane with a little like curly Q, which is like the exact curly Q that the Challenger like did before it blew up. And then like the lady, there was something.
Wasn't she like a professor or something?
Yeah,
like
she was a professor. And besides looking, it seemed like there was something else that like was another clue. But she looked just like the lady. And it's just like, that is so weird. And like, even like, that's where I get to the fact of like, I don't even understand why they would fake that if it was faked.
Right.
Like, what were these people international spies that they were trying to like hide? They don't seem like, astronauts don't seem like that type of people. So like, why would you fake their death?
Beats me.
Besides just trying to get rid of Big Bird.
They got that close.
I kind of wish Big Bird was on it. I bet his costume was on that ship. They just didn't televise it just in case something bad happened. But what was funny too, because on that shuttle, there was like, I think, a school that put a bunch of their what do they call it? Like science projects or something on that ship. It was a big televised thing.
Yeah.
And like, you know, their school was chosen, so they got to put their thing. So like that whole class or school, like was literally there watching it and watched it blow up. Which
that probably was traumatizing.
Yeah, very traumatizing. But yeah. Do you have anything?
I have a couple things.
Yeah.
I'll
let you go.
Okay. So, you know the Manhattan Project that created the nuclear bomb?
Oh, yeah, Manhattan Project. Yeah.
That was the most expensive thing that was created during World War II.
Makes sense.
Except
Okay.
the B-29 bomber.
B-29 bomber. That was
a plane cost more
to develop.
Yeah.
Really?
So it had like high-end, like some of the new things that were on it was a what is it? Where they seal up.
Oh, a pressurized cabin?
Yeah, they had a pressurized cabin.
Okay.
They had like 4 automated turrets.
Oh.
That pretty much 2 people could run.
Oh.
All 4 of them and be shooting at different times. So with a pressurized cabin, they could fly above.
Super high.
Yeah. And then they're also needing something to be able to cross the Atlantic or the Pacific.
To drop the bombs?
Yeah, so it had like an 18-hour range.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That is cool.
Yeah, there was like...
Did we use it? I'm not
there was like close to 4,000 of them.
Oh, actually manufactured?
Yeah.
Wow.
We used them all the way through the 60s, so we used them for about 15 years.
Oh, wow. That's really
10
good.
to 15 years.
Did we use it in World War II, or was it one of those projects that didn't really finish
No, we
until?
used it in World War II.
Okay. That is so cool.
But, yeah, I think it was probably towards the end. I'm not exactly sure.
So I wonder, with the pressurized cabin, could it fly above, like AA guns?
Anti-aircraft guns? Probably depending on the gun, to be honest.
Because I was thinking if it flies that high, that might be a reason why to have it pressurized, so you can go that high and still do a bombing run, but then you'd be like out of range of artillery.
But also a huge thing is if, say you can fly at 30,000 feet, and the next guy can only fly at 10,000 feet.
Yeah.
Or say 15,000 feet or whatever it is.
The fighter planes aren't going to be able to go that high.
Yeah. It's, so you're kind of in a world of your own.
Yeah.
That pretty much the only time that you're going to be shot at is like landing and taking off.
Yeah. And with that kind of range, like you said, you can take off in a safe location, get really high, and gravity still works up there, so you can still drop bombs. At least we think gravity still works up there.
But yeah, so the B-29 bomber cost $3 billion to design. Where the Manhattan Project for the nuclear bomb cost, I think, 1.9 billion.
Wow.
So it was like $1 billion more
to develop an airplane.
That's nuts. Than the bomb that changed the entire atmosphere of the war.
And the world.
Yeah.
And technology after that is nuts.
Yeah.
That's crazy. But since we're on the topic of airplanes, so you know the SR-71 Blackbird?
Here, let me finish this also.
Yes.
It's very interesting, actually.
Yeah.
Is that they actually used, after the war, they used the B-29 bomber as a TV transmitter. So
what?
The Stratavision company? Something like that.
Okay.
Company used it to broadcast their television.
So it was like an early form of satellite?
Kind of. Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out how this works. What did they do it? Like, was it flying constantly to be able to have like a cell cover or TV coverage?
I think so.
Or is it only for like special events?
It might have been. I mean, they could have been using it more as a World War II or Cold War deterrent, like flying up above, getting. they didn't state. I didn't look into it that far.
Yeah.
They could have been just using it more as like a satellite where they would just fly them up. Because, I mean, your TV stations, even today,
Yeah.
radio stations, you put a tower and you broadcast it.
Yeah.
Where this and your hills and all that are still in the way. So that
You're above the
probably
hills.
was cheaper than building 20 or 50 different towers
That's
and broadcasting it.
That is interesting. I wonder how, did it say how long that Univision company was around?
No.
Okay.
But, and also another interesting thing is I think it was the first plane to fly around the world. And I think it took it like 98 hours.
Oh, wow.
Without landing. So either they had like the refueling capability or they just packed it. Like they modified the engines in it. And they probably modified the inside of it to hold fuel.
Right.
Instead of just the wings.
Well, people need to watch their TV. Wow.
But, so there's a lot of cool things that actually ended up in the B-29 in that whole development. And I mean, this is where we get our jets from, the pressurized cabin. Like the first one to have pressurized cabin.
Right.
I mean, that's normal. Right. Your day-to-day travel on planes.
Right, even passenger planes.
Yeah.
Yeah, are all pressurized in that regard.
It's crazy.
That's so nuts. I mean, and that's why it's so cool, like, when the technology comes back to you eventually. Like, I mean, they spent $3 billion for the war effort and for this cool plane or to be able to do this stuff. But, I mean, over the next 30 years after that, it's come all the way back, and now we use it every day, and that's so cool. But SR-71 Blackbird.
Okay.
Have you heard about the SR? Do you know the SR-71 Blackbird?
I'm sure I'd recognize a picture of it.
Yeah, it was like the first supersonic. It could go like Mach 3. I know. And it was developed. It was Cold War. It was a spy plane.
Okay.
And it's got like basically 2 rockets on the side. It's black. If you saw a picture, you would know.
Yeah, like there's 2 big, huge engines, and then like tiny wings, and then like a big, huge snout.
Yes, it's the sweetest looking plane ever. But so what's interesting is they used it for actually not too long, because then satellites, because it was Cold War time, satellites came fairly frequently.
As a reconnaissance?
Yes.
Okay.
But they would still use them, like, even after once we got satellites. And they would use, this is the coolest thing, they would get 3 of them together, and they would use it for, they called it the, what they call it? Sorry, this is great TV. So they would refer to it as like the freedom weapon.
Interesting.
And so there would be, in other countries, there'd be like heads of state meeting. And like we would know that these heads of state are meeting, and they're doing something we don't want them to be doing or whatever. Yeah. We'd take 3 of them and just fly at like Mach 3 by them. And they'd do the sonic boom and just boom. And they said it was like,
I'd shake them to the core.
Yeah, it almost would feel like a bomb went off without collateral, basically.
Yeah.
And like, so they would use them just to buzz the other countries and heads of state. I'm like, that is the sweetest thing
Just imagine,
ever.
like, you're like, the Americans can't stop us, or they can't do anything. Then, boom, like earth shattering, like you thought an earthquake happened, and you're just like,
right? And like it terrifies you, but at the same time, there's not really any damage. So it's like they're not gonna counter strike with anything because it's like, well, it didn't hurt anything or anybody except for maybe a few windows.
And eardrums.
Yeah. But I thought that was.
But the thing is, it's like, okay, we're doing this, we're defying them. They can drop a bomb if they wanted.
Yeah.
Type of a situation where like we can't do anything against them. Like, it's not something that we're going to use violence against, but That's kind of cool.
You're doing something we don't basically
appreciate.
Appreciate. We know you're doing it, and we're holding the stick.
No, we're letting you know and everybody else that's there.
Yeah. No, I just thought that was the greatest thing. And then have you heard of the ninja bomb? So they like use this now and like during like the Iraqi war and everything.
No, I haven't heard of it.
So you know what a Hellfire missile is? It's like a missile when they shoot it, it goes all crazy, but it's like laser guided. I think it goes all crazy because it can go like up and over.
Oh, okay.
Or, like go up and over a mountain. But what's really cool is it doesn't explode, this bomb. So it reduces casualties, and it is so accurate that basically instead of an exploding head or whatever, it has its blades, like literal blades, since ninja. And basically it shoots out this blade and just literally blends the person. And they can have a target where they're in the driver's seat, and if you're in the back seat or whatever, it won't kill you or hurt you. Or you might get injured to some extent, but it showed like a picture of a car that was targeted and got hit, and it was just like a bowling ball looked like went through that part of the car. And there was
that's crazy.
It is so crazy. And we used it this one time over in like Iraq, where there was this high-end terrorist that we knew. Yeah. And he had a schedule. Every morning at 8 a.m. or whatever, he'd go out to his balcony and drink coffee. And so they sent 2 of these things in, and they're laser guided. And what's crazy about them is they're silent too, because once they're launched and like they're coming down, like there's no rocket like propelled. They're controlled by fins.
Yeah.
So it's just like, and then like I said, the blades come out and like twist, and it just blends you. And so they got one guy like sitting on his roof drinking coffee because they knew exactly the time that he went in and out, and it is crazy. Like in that instance, it's crazy because it's like, oh, you don't even need snipers at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, cheaper.
Right.
Like I'm sure those missiles.
Like, is it laser guided?
Yeah.
Okay, so you still had to have somebody there guiding
that's true.
Guiding it.
Mm-hmm. And in that instance, though, they knew his schedule, so they could just do GPS coordinates. Because it's like,
what happens if his chair moved?
With laser guided, couldn't you use a satellite?
I mean, you probably could.
Like the military is using satellites. It's not like Google Earth. Like they're getting real feed.
It's that much more cool of a movie having a guy like the entire time like.
Right.
And then right when it's about to, he goes, Hachoo! And then it moves.
Oh, man.
And then kills the servant. Right? And then he gets in this big outrage.
That's why they sent 2.
Do you know how much that cost?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting to know how much each one of those cost.
Yeah, it would be very interesting to find out for sure. That'd be so crazy. And then you wonder like how much more of stuff like that they have. Like they were saying it's amazing as it's silent because there's no explosion. It's insanely accurate because they can narrow it down. They can reduce casualties because it's not like the car's gone. It's just like that guy.
Yeah.
Crazy. And
then they add in this factor of safety of having the bowling ball size.
Yeah, right? You would think it would be like a shrapnel, like still like everywhere. But man, they really honed it down. They kind of, when they were talking about it, they were comparing it to like like an arrow, or like a bow hunter's arrow with like blades that like come out at the right time and everything.
Yeah. I mean, if it has the RPMs of the rotation of
right,
the ninja.
right,
and then at the very last angle,
right. A lot of, even like some of those arrows have like pressure sent tips where it's like just gets the slightest pressure, it opens up.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And that's in an arrow that they spent, who knows, like a few bucks on. Think about if you had $1 billion budget to develop a ninja missile.
Yeah. So, did you know during the Cold War
Mm-hmm.
that the Brooklyn Bridge, was a nuclear bomb fallout shelter?
The bridge?
Yeah, they actually had a spot in the bridge that was dedicated to being a fallout shelter.
What?
Yeah.
In the bridge? Where do you go in the bridge?
Like at the base of it.
Okay, so at the base, like where the land is?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm thinking like in the middle somehow. And I'm like, that's a terrible spot. That's cool.
But yeah, so they had like rations and food and crackers and all that. So, and I'm like, that's not that great. Like if a nuclear bomb happens on New York City, like it's not like that's still not going to save you.
No.
It's like, oh no, the nuclear bomb just blew up. Like it's not going to save you from a nuclear bomb.
No,
but it was designed for the fallout aspect of it. And the fallout is like the radiation that collected to the dust.
Yeah.
Would still be in there and you'd be breathing it. And so it would allow you a couple of weeks to survive in it.
Right.
And then
settle down.
Yeah. Then you had to go out at some point. But I guess Kennedy built a lot of them.
Okay. Like around the country?
Yeah.
Okay.
A bunch of different fallouts. He actually had them in skyscrapers, like top of skyscrapers and stuff. I'm like, for a nuclear bomb, like you think that'd be the first thing to topple over.
Right. No, yeah, you would think so. But like you said, it's probably more of for the outskirts. I mean, because they probably figured, okay, like where are the key targets of a nuclear bomb to be deployed? And then, like, okay, if it's at a skyscraper that's out here, but it's still in the fallout ring, that makes sense.
But, I mean, we probably still have those today. We just aren't invited.
I know. And you would think if it's a public thing that there'd be like, this is a fallout shelter and this is a fallout shelter.
I don't think they want it to be public. I think they have their specific people that are invited, that if the end of the world situation happens, these are the people invited and they know they're invited.
Right.
And we haven't made the list.
Yeah, yet. Yeah. But we're working on it.
But if you
like and subscribe.
Ship, if you have a pirate ship, you can sail to wherever you can outrun the fallout.
By wind.
But what was also cool is that sorry.
Notes are great.
Right? So it was okay, so this was built by the Civil Defense Program.
Okay.
So, and now that program has become.
Is this the bridge? Or just
I mean, it was just like this empty room in the bridge that they reconstructed, did some retrofit to it, and then stored some food to it.
Right.
And then put a big door on it or something like that. Right. And it was found by like just your regular city workers that were doing a regular routine check on the bridge. And like, where does this go?
Right.
And they opened it up and they found it. And I think they found it in 2006.
Oh, wow. I wonder how many more of those are around that people don't even know about.
Oh, I bet there's quite a bit.
And it's probably be in urban areas, too.
Yeah.
Would be my guess, because, I mean, they're going to be smart about where they're putting them. They're not going to put it in just rural areas. Huh.
Yeah, I mean, the likelihood of you dropping a bomb in a rural area.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. That's why they'd be strategic on where they place these things. But what's interesting, kind of talking about the fallout shelters, is the going back to the Denver airport.
Mm-hmm.
So the Denver airport was constructed originally. The airport that flew in and out of Denver was sufficient for like the air traffic
Mm-hmm.
and everything. So then it raised the question, well, why did they build this new airport that is like massive in comparison when they
Yeah.
didn't even need that big of an airport to support the traffic? And then when they built this airport, it was like it the budget for it doubled. Like they went, I think the total amount that they paid for it was $7 billion to build
Wow.
this airport, and the original budget was like 3 billion or something, or three and a
Crazy.
half. And when they built this airport, there there's so many conspiracies around it. But like just for instance, just the construction wise, there's I think there's like 6 or 7 known floors.
Mm-hmm.
Previous to the being knowledgeable about those 6 or 7 floors, there was supposedly only 3 floors, like underground. And the amount of when they were building it, the amount of dirt that they excavated from this facility was, I can't remember how much, but it was like tons and tons and like ridiculous amount of dirt that you wouldn't need to move for an airport.
Yeah.
And like the amount was, it would calculate to the amount of digging from that airport to the Cheyenne Mountains, which
Oh,
everybody
wow.
knows in the Cheyenne Mountain range is like a huge nuclear fallout shelter,
Yeah.
type thing. And then what's interesting is when the airport was opened was also when
Oh,
the
that fallout
the
shelter.
fallout shelter for the president that
Mm-hmm.
used to be in a hotel on the
Yeah.
East Coast. I can't remember the name of the hotel right now, but this hotel was open to the public of knowledge that same year. The airport opened up as far as
Interesting.
being open. And then I'm thinking, actually, that's actually not a bad idea to have a huge, like, presidential type fallout shelter in an airport, because if it's this huge airport, they hit Air Force One, they can they fly in, land the thing, and then they're there.
Yeah.
They don't have
And
to
then you run through the tunnel.
run through the tunnel, and then you can hit the huge tunnel that hits the Cheyenne Mountains or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like I am pretty sure there's something to it. Maybe not all the crazy like that they're holding the lizard people there,
Yeah.
but like as far as like structural for the government, I
Mm-hmm.
bet there's something there.
Yeah. I heard that they built a building and then just buried it.
Yeah, I heard that too. Like, okay.
So crazy.
And then there's so many other crazy stuff about it. And then it's almost the perfect cover because they have all the crazy artwork and all this alien-ish type stuff. They also have the CEO, I don't know his title, but like the CEO of the airport or whatever that runs it. He actually like embraces it, and he'll like do social media posts like commenting about like the alien airport and like all this stuff, which I'm like, that's the perfect psyop. Like just embrace it. Like, oh yeah, we got aliens. Like just make them laugh, because it's like the more you embrace that, the more people aren't gonna believe it. So maybe the lizard people are living there.
Maybe.
And the razor wire around the airport is the razor wire is facing out.
Okay.
So like keeps people from jumping in or running across the airport. Well, this airport, it's facing in.
Huh.
Which then is like, well, maybe the lizard people are there.
Maybe.
Because it's like a prison in that instance.
Yeah. Well, have you heard of FEMA?
Mm-hmm.
They've built like camps all over the United States that are just like random.
Like recently?
I think it was during the Obama years.
Okay.
They built a bunch of different random camps. And you're like, why are you building these huge camps? Like, are you anticipating like to house these concentration type camps type of a situation? And then they were also, during that time, they were stockpiling ammo.
Weird.
Yeah. that was a weird time. I was like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But I mean, nothing major really happened. But
yeah, I mean, maybe they thought
still floating around, so you're just like, huh.
I mean, it could be one of those things where they think that something was going to happen, and then so they prepare.
Or they were going to do something, they're like, well, we can't quite pull it off yet.
Maybe.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So you want to know another interesting?
Yeah, I do. Hit me with it. I'm excited.
So, have you heard much of the information around the M1 carbine that was used during World War II?
Nope.
Okay.
Like the M1 Grand?
No, the M1 carbine. So the M1 Grand was a big bolty gun. And I think it shoots like a 30-06 or something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
then this shot a 22 caliber.
Oh, that's tiny.
And it was used for like the airborne rangers. So the people that were dropped out of the airplanes behind enemy lines.
Okay.
And for like people that were driving the tanks. So it was something that were used for more lighter use.
Was it a rifle or was it?
It was
like
a rifle, yeah.
Oh, wow, that's such a small caliber.
Yeah, but so the interesting thing is the guy that created it, and has a lot of the design features of the M1 carbine, was David Marshall Williams, and he was arrested for murdering, what was his name? Well, he's most known for his murder of Deputy Sheriff Al Pat.
Okay.
And he killed him when he was moonshining, and his moonshining raid, or still got raided, and he admitted to shooting one of the officers.
Okay.
So he got convicted and went to jail, had a 30-year sentence.
Okay.
While in jail, guess what he does?
He creates the M1 carbine?
He's on a machine shop, and he builds 4 different guns.
Okay.
Like in his spare time or something. Builds 4 different guns. Like, I think with the knowledge of the jail.
Okay.
But he still, like, who lets, like, just imagine today.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, everybody in Guantanamo Bay, we're going to teach you how to make guns. And then after you're done serving your sentence, we're going to release you into the wild.
So did he create this weapon, the M1 carbine or whatever? Did he create that before he went to jail or after?
After. So he learned the skills in jail. And so, and he created like the components for the short action.
Okay.
So he was known for inventing the floating chamber and the short stroke gas piston, which is, I believe, key components of making the M1 carbine the M1 carbine.
Okay.
And so, and I mean, it's an iconic, I think you would recognize the look of the gun. It's an iconic gun.
Right.
And it's actually pretty cool. And then, like, we've modified that since then. But, and so he did that. So he did this. The person, the jailer, noticed his abilities.
Yeah.
And, like, he would take notes, and, like, his mom would send him papers, and he would design different gun components.
Yeah.
While in jail, the jailer was like, hey, this guy's talented. Like, he needs to be out in the free world being able to design.
Yeah.
So out of the 30-year sentence, he only served 8 of them.
Oh. Wow.
And he... Sorry.
You're good.
But he got hired on by Winchester, Remington, and Colt. So 3 different gun manufacturers.
All at the same time?
Not all at the same time, but at different times.
Yeah.
And he moved to different ones.
Yeah.
But I'm like, 3 different, after, like, they couldn't, while he was in jail, they couldn't hire him, I don't think. So that's why they had to have some sort of release and set him free. And he had, over his career, over 50 patents.
Wow.
And this was all because he was moonshining, got raided, and murdered one of the sheriff deputies that were raiding.
And was bored in jail. So he created... That's awesome.
Oh my. When I heard that story, I'm like, I had to say like that. It's like a cool story.
Yeah.
But like, to me, it's like, who, first of all, teaches a murderer
Yeah.
how to make a gun in jail. And then who's like, let's set him free.
Right?
He can make guns.
Right. It's not like they saw him doing it. Like, oh, stop, or whatever. It was like, no, go for it.
Yeah, while in jail, he made 4 different guns. Like, it's in a museum. Like, you can see the picture of the different guns that he made.
I mean, yeah. I guess if maybe their thought process, well, he's in this controlled environment, as far as like, it's not like they were letting him take the guns back with him to jail. Like, well, I can't make him out of toothbrushes, so.
Do you really want to find out?
Maybe they didn't care. Oh, man. So have you heard about the conspiracy about the guy who invented diesel fuel?
A little bit.
Okay. His name was Rudolph Diesel.
Okay.
And
did he have a red nose?
No, he actually worked for Santa.
Oh.
But
like just breathing in all that diesel made his nose red. So is that why they call it Diesel?
Yeah.
Is because of him?
Yeah, because of his last name.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is. But he disappeared under mysterious circumstances in 1913.
Okay.
Last seen on a steamship bound for London, but his body was found later just floating in the ocean.
Weird.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
But my question is, I mean, it wasn't like they hid diesel fuel.
Right? Well, I think I heard something about that where pretty much he was like, this diesel, it was like 70% more like efficient of the fuel.
Yeah.
Where regular gasoline, I think, is like 30. And I think part of the reason why he created it was to help out the smaller communities and the smaller towns and those farm people, to help them be able to have the same advantages as the big cities.
Right.
With
cheaper fuel.
Yeah. With more efficient fuel, more powerful fuel. Like you can plow a field, you can have a machine shop that's running off of diesel or whatever, you know. You don't have to have like these huge steam engine factories that are pushing this. You can actually still have the same power in a smaller, compact form.
Right. I mean, genius guy.
Yeah.
Incredible.
And then the military is like, woo, woo!
Yeah. Push him out to sea. Thank you very much. Did you have a patent? Oh, it doesn't matter.
Thank you for that patent.
Yes.
Actually, talking about patents. So I think that's one of the big reasons why Elon Musk gives out all his patents.
Okay.
Is if you have patent-free information out there,
open
why
source.
kill you? If everyone has access to it.
You're right. Because I think, because you've heard the rumors and conspiracies around the guys that have like figured out and developed like water engines or whatever. Mm-hmm. And during their patent process, they disappear or die mysteriously. I mean, if you're open sourcing it, release it. But then you kind of wonder, wouldn't they just knock the guy off before they push the button to open source it?
I mean, maybe, but then you don't have that information. Like, if it's patented, then I think there's a process that allows them to have control over it.
Right. Or review it. This is interesting. Well,
that's cool. And if you just, like, open source it, like, now they're like, okay, he has a lot of open source stuff and a lot of different patents and all that kind of stuff that are like, hey, we might want to watch them. But at the beginning, he's like, open source. It's like, you might not be able to capture everything. Right. All the profits, but you're still alive. Like, there's no reason to kill you once it's open source because everybody around the world can now have access and build it the exact same way that you did or figure out a little better way.
Right. So, that's really cool.
I thought that was an interesting thing. Yeah. And maybe this is why Elon Musk did it. Mm-hmm. It might not be the benevolence of him. He might be like, well, it's going to take him 3 or 4 years or 10 years to catch up to where we are. And we kind of see that with like all the different car companies are now going electric and they're trying to catch up with Tesla. Right. But if you open source it. So if you have this amazing technology, open source it, let everybody in the world know.
Right.
And then
there's no sense in...
Yeah, they can't kill you because now you're a head figure, and then there's no point of killing you because the information's already out, and you can't contain it.
Unless they know you're going to come out with even more information, so knock it off. But then they also want that information, though, because they want it for themselves.
Yeah. It's like electricity.
Yeah.
Tesla was trying to make electricity free to all, which may or may not have been a wise choice. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, there might have been health repercussions of it.
Right.
There might not have been. We don't know.
Right.
It might have been like having a constant EMP going off the entire time, and we would have never had computers. Who knows what the benefits and side effects would have been.
Right.
But there's also that fact of, well, we can't make money if people can just pull it out of the thin air, so how do we charge for it?
Right. And that was, I know, Edison's big reason with electricity, that he wanted to be able to figure out how to put a meter on it, basically. And beforehand, that's why he was investing in like all the copper companies and everything, because he knew to transfer electricity, they're going to need copper wires and all that.
Yeah.
And then on the other end of that copper wire, put a meter on it, cha-ching. Cha-ching on the investment, cha-ching on the turn of the meter.
Yeah, that's crazy.
But did you hear about the stealth bomber? Or the B-2 stealth bomber, you know, the sweet-looking flat planes. But so...
The triangle?
Yeah. The triangle of death. So one of them was flying, and it hit a Canadian goose, and it cracked the window on it. And so in storage, they had spare windows, windshields, but they never cracked these things. And so those spare windows have been around forever. And it got put into some like government auction type thing to get rid of junk, basically. And they sold it to just some...
Like, who would buy... Like, what's the purpose of having that besides having it for the B-2 bomber? Maybe he's like, I'm going to buy a couple B-2 bombers or whatever.
That's the funny part. I'm going to get to where or why he bought it. So he bought it. So now, and I'll circle back, the government is like, we need a new window for these the stealth bombers, because they're flying them in Iraq in the beginning of the Iraqi war and everything. And so they're going back in records trying to find who bought it, everything. They found the guy that bought it. They say, like, we'll buy him back. They come to his house. The guy used the window for his daughter's playhouse tree. So then they bought it back. So.
No, don't worry, daughter. We're building you a mansion.
I was like, that's hilarious, because like your question as far as like, what would you buy this for? And it's like his daughter's playhouse. I mean, because it was probably at an auction. Nobody at the auction knew what it was or for, just a piece of glass. So he probably bought it for pennies.
Right.
And it's like, for, $10 I can get a window.
It's a cool looking window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a window for the playhouse.
Talking about, okay, so you know how it cracked by flying into a bird or whatever? Yeah. So they were doing these tests, I think on commercial airliners, on the pilot windows. And they had these cannons that would shoot frozen birds at the windows, and they kept on breaking. Like, why are they breaking? Like, they kept on running the math and doing all this. Like, it should not break. Like, why are these breaking?
Yeah.
Do you know what the key factor was?
What?
A frozen bird.
Oh, because they were hard.
Yeah. And so when they de-thawed them and shot them at them,
they were fine.
They were fine, but it was just like, they were just racking the brain, like, what could have this been? And it was just like,
man,
you forgot the frozen part.
That seems like a very, like, you would remember that part. I mean,
I see how you would like, okay, got the bird.
Yeah. And
got
you
the
have
window,
to preserve the bird.
Got the cannon.
Yeah, right? That's hilarious.
I just want to know how much those guns cost to shoot those birds.
Oh man, I want to know how many birds they went through before they figured out they were frozen.
Or how many windshields?
Yeah, how many windshields? That's crazy. But this was interesting. Actually, this is relatively new information. So, Lockheed Martin, the defense contract, they make a lot of our
making a lot
jets.
of money right now.
Yeah, we're on an airplane kick today. But, so there's a lot of conspiracy that they have a lot of high-end technology, whether they're kind of acting on their own or part of the government as far as like...
it's kind of a gray area there.
Yeah. But this, they just released, like, remember, I think last week or maybe it was a couple weeks ago, I mentioned...
the nuclear energy?
Yeah, it's not nuclear, fusion.
Yeah.
Fusion reactors.
Nuclear fusion or fusion.
And the guy, they kind of drop little nuggets here and there, and he's like, oh, in 12 years or whatever, we'll be doing this. And then I look at the date of the video, and it was 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, wow. So they kind of released another nugget.
Oh.
And so Lockheed Martin can grow the skin of an aircraft that contains sensors and stores energy without any wires. Data can flow through the structure. They have new material that changes shape on command like a muscle. They can make autonomous aircraft change shape as it flies.
What?
Yeah.
Like Transformer type stuff.
Transformer.
But better.
Better, and they can grow it. Not manufacture, grow it.
I want to be part of this farming process.
You're like, mind blown. And then you're like, I want more information. Like,
I wonder if this is kind of the technology that has come downhill of that. Is, Bill Gates and his lab created meat?
Yes.
I wonder if that's kind of a byproduct of that. Like I was doing a little bit of research on that.
Yeah.
And his meat is pretty much a cancer. And so it's like, and he has like a little thing that's like, it's a cancer, but it's safe for human consumption. And it's like, I don't want to, like, I'd rather not.
Yeah, I like cows. I like cattle. They're yummy.
Like, I mean, pigs are a little stretch for me. Like, bacon, okay, I can do that. But other pig products, like, rather not. Just let me stick to chicken and beef,
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, no, we want to get rid of all of that and grow it in a lab.
Right.
And then I was watching another little video, and they're wanting to kind of like these insect maggot type things. Mm-hmm. And they're like, how to put it? They were like making ice cream from it. It was like and it had a bunch of different proteins in it, and it was like, ugh. I'm like, no, this is not the world I want to live in. Like 50 years from now, I don't want to be eating maggots.
Yeah.
It's like as ice cream.
Right.
Like, it's like it might be very productive, but it's like all to reduce CO2. Which is
ridiculous.
Like, I don't know how much CO2 is really harmful.
They're not going to reduce it. Like, I mean, how much CO2 are they emitting while creating this stuff, for one? Yeah. And for two, like, I mean, ask an astronaut, do you think they enjoy their meals in space? I mean, no. I mean, I feel like that's,
well, it was advertised as ice cream, so.
Well, yeah, right. It's freeze dried ice cream sandwich.
Right.
It's like, do they enjoy the food, or is it literally just put calories in their body so they can move on to the next day? And it's like, well, if you're living on Earth, I'd like to enjoy my food.
Right.
Not eat maggots.
Yeah.
That is so bad.
Yeah. One thing that I think is interesting is that out of all of this environmental stuff, a lot of it is in the name of protection. But if you look at what they're protecting, like rampant forest fires have gone through it.
Yeah.
Like to protect the environment, we have to kill thousands and thousands of cattle. Well, like, you don't think other animals are going to then occupy the lands after that? It's like you're saying, are they really going, like, yeah, you might reduce it in that area, but eventually it's going to grow back up.
Yeah, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they're creating these different voids that then creates disasters, like nitrogen fertilizer, one of, like, nitrogen, very common element, and we can pull it out from air.
Okay.
And fertilize our lands, and it, like, doubles our crop production.
Wow.
And what's the number one thing that they want to get rid of? Nitrogen fertilizer. So we're going to have half the amount of food production if we stop using nitrogen fertilizer, and then they want to kill all the farm animals as well.
What's the byproduct? Like, why do they want to get rid of, like, why do they want to get rid of the nitrogen fertilizer? Like, is there something supposedly...
Some environmental thing.
Like, nitrogen's bad or something?
So, I mean, supposedly, I view it as more of a destruction element.
Right.
Like, if you look at Bill Gates.
Well, yeah, I just meant, what is their... like, their thing is like, oh, we want less CO2. Like, is this nitrogen...
No, Bill Gates' stated purpose in vaccines is population reduction. And now you're looking at, he's buying up farmland, not farming it. Like, there's all these different things that you're just looking at. You're going over to Epstein Island. Like, a lot of his benevolent things.
Yeah, aren't so benevolent.
I would say are more dark and evil than benevolent.
Right.
That kind of scares me.
Yeah, and there's been even proof of that, of some of the stuff that they've done, like in Africa, like their testing or their benevolence on some of the stuff. I don't have all the details. I'll have to look more into it.
Or releasing mosquitoes to reduce malaria in a non-malaria area, and then
malaria
happens.
Right.
In Florida and Texas. Like, why are you saying release these things?
Yeah.
This, like, these science experiments.
Right.
Like
keep them in the lab.
I don't even know. Can they?
Only in China they can.
Only the Wuhan Coronavirus Institute can contain the coronavirus. That definitely didn't come from the Corona Wuhan.
I'm an expert in biology. Who was that? No. So, have you heard about the fires in Vienna del Mar?
Is that the ones in, like, Peru or Chile or something like that?
I think so.
Okay. Not really.
Okay. I was like, so tell me.
Like, I heard there was, like, a fire that's kind of like the Hawaiian fires.
Yes. So that's what I was going to go into.
Okay.
The way it burned was very, very, very similar to how the Hawaiian fires happened.
Okay.
What's really weird about it, because, you know, the conspiracy is potentially...
direct energy weapon?
Yes. Direct energy weapon happened in Hawaii. What's interesting is this fire as well. There showed a video of, like, the burn scene or areas of burn.
Okay.
And right in the middle of one of the burn areas, blue house. Untouched. Perfect. Everything else just melted right next to it. In Hawaii, all the blue umbrellas in this area that it just melted, blue umbrellas still sitting there. Blue structures. There's even areas in Hawaii where it was, like, storage units. Yeah. Like green storage units on one side of the road, and then blue ones on the other side. Green ones torched. Blue ones not touched.
Wow.
And what's crazy is lasers, actually. The lasers, when you do, like, testing in labs and stuff, lasers, like, can't heat up blue objects. But anything else they can.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then, so have you heard the rumor with, in Hawaii, that area was going to be turned into, or they were looking to turn it into like a smart city.
Okay. So smart city has like the 15-minute city concept?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So what's interesting is the Vienna Del Mar was where the original idea of the smart cities was going to happen.
Interesting.
And then, to put the little cherry on top, to just add to the whole conspiracy angle, during the Hawaiian fires, there was a satellite flying over during the exact time. And do you know who that satellite was owned by?
Wasn't it owned by like CERN?
Yes.
Oh, that I was just going to mention CERN earlier when we're talking about it. Aren't they the ones that are creating the black hole in Switzerland?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the accelerator, and they have plans, and they're planning on building a bigger one.
We have no clue what this is going to do.
Yeah, well, I think they have a clue.
Well, now.
Well, yeah.
But it's like, we don't, like, it's like the nuclear bomb.
Yeah, I was just going to say that.
You're dropping a nuclear bomb, and their thought of it might not stop.
Yeah.
We just might go to the entire planet once we drop this bomb.
Yeah.
And it's like, now you're creating a black hole.
Yeah.
And the whole concept and theory of a black hole is that it sucks everything in. And you want to create it on Earth. Yeah. You're like, genius move. Right? Like, we want to study it. Well, then shoot a satellite somewhere. Like, give us at least a little bit of time.
Right? And then, well, even with the nuclear thing, did you know that they did a nuclear test of shooting a nuke into the atmosphere, like our atmosphere?
Okay.
To see what would happen. And one of the theories was it could just evaporate our whole atmosphere. It's like, why try? Like, we don't need to know. Like, like a lot of bad things are gonna happen if that happens. Like,
oh my. Now I'm
in the name of science.
In the name of curiosity.
Yeah. Crazy.
Oh my.
But I think I'm all fresh out of ideas.
Yeah. So, okay, going back to the Hawaiian.
Yes.
So I know somebody that was going to go help out the disaster relief with an organization.
Sure.
They were going to go over there. They weren't allowed. FEMA had it all locked down. I heard there's people, like, they wouldn't allow, like, food and medicine to be shipped in. It all had to go through this one port and through their stuff. And, like, the people weren't getting the disaster relief stuff.
Yeah.
And all the money that is going over there to help them out is, like, being bottlenecked. It's like, what is going on? And
I don't get it.
You have Oprah, The Rock, and Jeff Bezos, and a bunch of other millions and billionaires.
Yeah.
Just buying up land left and right.
It's weird to me. Like,
and then you have the rumor that, like, let's just say the direct energy weapon isn't a thing. And, like, but you have all these rumors that it's going to be a smart city, and then you have all these billionaires coming in and spending all this money buying up this land.
Yeah.
You're like, what is really going on?
Yeah.
And then the mismanagement of the FEMA use and not allowing other nonprofit organizations that do this.
That's what I don't understand.
Like, they've been doing it for 30 plus years or more. They've been doing it forever. And you're not allowing them to come in and do disaster relief. It's like, you think the first thing you would do is anybody and everybody that wants to come help can come help.
Right.
You know? And they do it. Like, you have all these different nonprofit organizations go into, like, the earthquake that happened in, what was that? Cuba?
Yeah.
Or, I forget.
think it was Cuba, wasn't it?
Maybe.
Okay, we'll go with it.
We'll just go with it.
We'll get the comments.
Yeah, you have all these different nonprofit organizations that are coming in and setting up. They play well with each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, okay, you go do this and this and this, you know?
Right.
Like, they kind of have
divide and conquer.
Figured out. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're going and doing that, and then they're like, FEMA's like, no, only we're allowed in. And then, all the medicine, no, sorry, medicine isn't allowed in. Oh, sorry, food's not allowed in. Oh, money to help you out so you can keep your land. Oh, no, we're not going to do that. Oh, the benevolence of Oprah and The Rock
Yeah.
and Jeff Bezos coming in and buying up these lands from these people that really need help. It's like there's already money being given. Like, it's not like there's lack of money to help these people out or lack of supplies or lack of knowledge.
Well, that's the part that I don't understand is the bottlenecking of the help. Because, like, say it's the worst case scenario and it's some nefarious thing to wipe it out, take it over. Why would they be blocking aid in the fact of medicine and food and stuff like that? That's what I don't understand. Like,
because you
why
need
would
the
they
people
care?
that own the land. So it's a legal thing that really comes down to, if they own the land, you can't, and you're wanting to build a 15-minute city.
Yeah.
You need to be able to own the majority of it. So then you can say, oh, we need your land from eminent domain because we're doing this. Instead of being like, oh, we need everybody's land from eminent domain.
Yeah.
If you destroy it all, you buy up most of it.
Right.
Then you can pick off the small little people afterwards.
And I understand that, but what I don't get is, like, say you own a house or you're trying to buy this person's house and you do something and you get the house. At that point, you get the house, like, why would you care if this neighbor over here wants to give them food and water?
Well,
to just help them out.
It's not. You don't have the house yet.
But how would giving them food and water help Jeff Bezos, the government, whoever, to get the land? Like, you
need those people to leave and not want to come back and hold on to their land.
But if their land is burnt to a crisp and they're thirsty, why not just give them a bottle of water? Like, that's gonna, like, they're not gonna.
That bottle of water comes with the land. I give you the water, you give me the land.
Oh, so it's like that.
Yeah, so they haven't taken the house yet. So they're not going to add aid, or they're not going to allow other people to come add aid so they can stand up strong and stay on their land.
I see. So, yeah. I see. That's so crazy.
Yeah. I don't know. And this is all conspiracy and hearsay. But when you have, like, I know a person that was planning on going with their organization.
Yeah.
And they couldn't because of FEMA.
And that's what's mind-blowing, too, is it's not like, oh, they're getting stiff-armed by some foreign government that doesn't want Americans in. It's a freaking state. Right? It's not like, it's not that hard. You know what I mean? And that's what's, if it was one thing, like, say it was just the fire. The fire started in this weird way, and there's, like, the whole blue thing. That's a conspiracy. Like, okay. Yeah. But there are way too many dominoes being pushed over to, like, not be like, okay, there's something weird and fishy about this whole thing. Like, there's way too many things to, like, be like, yeah, this was normal.
I would agree with you.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's just like the saying, never let a catastrophe go to waste.
Yeah.
So they may have had this planned, maybe not in the direct location, but now since that happened, then they can okay, let's put our 15-minute city here. Or, like, that's a nice location. Boom.
Yeah.
Like, fire, okay. And, I mean, like, don't put to conspiracy that you can put to a coincidence or something like that.
Yeah.
It's like that is a very good possibility of that happening.
Right.
But also then another thing happens and it doesn't burn blue objects in Hawaii, and then another place in, like, where Maldar.
Vienna Del Mar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you're like, okay, now that's weird.
Yeah.
It's like, is there another place that's going to happen?
Yeah, fool me once, shame on me.
Yeah.
Or you. Fool me twice. Well, we're really butchering hard.
All we're trying to say is just keep your eyes open. And,
for sure.
If this keeps on happening and you keep on seeing blue objects, then you're like, okay, maybe.
Right.
But, I mean, also, it just might have happened, might not have happened.
Right.
You know, the winds might have been blowing at that exact moment perfectly.
Against all the blue objects.
And the fires might have.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
what was the Egyptians' favorite color?
Blue? I mean, I have no clue.
And that's it. Thank you for joining us at the Conspiracy Crypto Pirates. Episode 13.
Yeah, all the conspiracies on 13. My.
All right, like, comment, subscribe. Tell us what you want to hear.
And see you next time.
Yeah, see you next time. Adios, amigos!